Welcome to Auto News Talk. We are so glad you are here with us.
Really glad to be here.
So we are looking at a landscape where the automotive market is moving at absolute lightning speed, yet paradoxically, it is colliding with massive, almost unbelievable operational blind spots.
Yeah, the contrast is wild.
Right. I mean, we are talking about record fast sales on the dealership lot, millions of vehicles heading straight back to the shop for bizarre sci-fi level tech failures, and on the totally opposite end of the spectrum, luxury buyers going to extreme and highly illegal lengths to game the system. Okay, let's unpack this.
It is quite the collision course. To give you a mental map of where we are heading, think of this as a journey through the complete life cycle of the modern car market.
Okay, I like that framing.
Yeah, we will start by exploring the psychology of the buyer, right there on the lot, looking at what actually drives them to pull the trigger. Then, we will peel back the curtain on the chaotic operations happening inside the dealership's back office.
Which is a mess, by the way. Ugh, a total mess. And from there, we follow the car to your driveway, where hyper-advanced technology is failing in ways that are deeply frustrating. And finally, we'll venture into the dark, underground side of exotic car sales.
The fun stuff.
Exactly. It's all connected, and it paints a wild picture of a market that is fundamentally transforming.
And it all begins with the sheer velocity of the sale. I was looking through an analysis from AutoTrader, and the data they pulled on the used car market is just staggering.
The site visits, right.
Yes. They logged over 80.2 million site visits in a single 30-day period.
80 million. That is an absolute tidal wave of demand.
It is. And because of that demand, used vehicles are taking an average of just 27 days to sell, under a month. And the prices are holding strong. The UK data they analyzed shows the average listing sitting at a very premium £17,197.
What's fascinating here is the underlying strategy. That 27-day metric isn't just a fun fact, it completely dictates a dealership's business model.
How so? Well, dealerships are essentially prioritizing velocity over maximum margin. By turning their stock over that quickly, they create a much healthier cash flow.
Which allows them to self-fund their operations instead of relying on high-interest floor plan loans.
You hit the nail on the head. And to help retailers lean into this, AutoTrader is actually offering some temporary listing flexibility.
Right, the volume deal.
Yeah, they're allowing partners to advertise double their contracted volume at no extra cost. The whole point is to let dealers safely test out new inventory profiles to see what moves fastest, without having to abandon their core stock.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. When you dig into those AutoTrader numbers, you find a detail about electric vehicles that totally challenges the usual narrative.
The days to sell gap.
Exactly. Used EVs are trailing petrol models by a mere 3 days. It takes 29 days to sell a used EV compared to 26 days for a petrol car. That gap is practically non-existent.
It really is.
Yeah.
AutoTrader points out that this indicates incredibly robust EV performance in the used market. For you, the buyer, the implication is that your negotiation windows are incredibly tight.
Yeah, if you see a fair price on a lot, you have to move. You do not have a week to think about it.
Right. And for sellers, competitive pricing is absolutely mandatory to maintain that velocity. However, there is a vulnerability built into that momentum.
There always is.
Yeah, what the AutoTrader data doesn't fully account for is the fragility of that EV demand. A sudden external shift, like a massive spike in the broader energy or fuel markets, could abruptly sway buyer behavior overnight.
Which brings up a massive contradiction. Wait, if cars are flying off the lot in 27 days and dealerships are moving inventory that fast, why are so many of these exact same dealerships actively bleeding money?
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer comes from an incredibly insightful analysis by David R. Marod. He's the CEO of Silent Partner.
Oh, this analysis blew my mind.
Right. He explains that dealerships are hemorrhaging sales and service revenue because their lead follow-up process is fundamentally broken. I mean, they are spending an absolute fortune on digital marketing to drive all those inquiries we just talked about.
But their internal tools are completely fragmented.
Completely.
Because you have the web form over here, text messages on a different platform, the main CRM system doing its own thing, and the service schedulers in a totally different silo.
Exactly. And the modern buyer doesn't care about the dealer's internal silos. They don't separate sales from service in their mind. They just see one single business.
They just want an answer to their question.
Yeah. And when the dealership's communication breaks down across those fragmented tools, you get what Merritt perfectly describes as a quiet drop-off.
I love that phrase, quiet drop-off. It is such a vivid way to capture the frustration. It's not that the buyers suddenly lost interest, it's an operational gap.
It's silent attrition.
Right. Imagine you are a buyer. You ask a specific question about a hybrid trim via text, and 3 days later, you get a generic, automated email from a totally different department that doesn't even address your question. You don't call them to complain.
No, you just silently move on to the next dealer.
Precisely. To stop this bleeding, Merrill makes the case for utilizing AI lifecycle management. The goal is to unify all those fragmented tools into a single system.
Using AI to send instant, contextual, on-brand responses and then escalating the high-intent buyers to a human at the exact right moment.
Yeah, in a hyper-competitive landscape, the dealers who win won't be the ones frantically buying more marketplace ads to chase volume. They will be the ones who use speed, clarity, and genuine helpfulness to actually close the leads they already have.
But I have to push back a little here.
Oh.
Is AI really a magic bullet for this? Because the huge question mark hanging over Merrow's proposed fix is whether these highly siloed dealership departments can actually execute the cross-team coordination needed.
That's a fair point. Technology can only do so much.
Right. If the handoffs between the marketing team, the sales floor, and the service bay continue to stall out because of internal dealership politics and turf wars, an AI chatbot isn't going to save them.
That is a phenomenal point. A software patch can't fix a broken culture. And speaking of sudden shifts in buyer behavior, we need to look at what actually triggers a buyer to walk onto that lot in the first place. This brings us to the pump and the plug.
Yes, how immediate visible costs dictate what moves. Carriage put out a market warning that dives deep into this. They highlight that spikes in gasoline prices immediately push shoppers toward hybrids.
And if those elevated prices last long enough, they eventually push buyers toward fully electric vehicles.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the psychology here is entirely reactive. Carriage notes that hybrids always move first because they offer immediate fuel savings without requiring the buyer to change their lifestyle or install charging infrastructure.
It's the path of least resistance.
Exactly. The EV ecosystem has matured immensely. There are now over 70 different AV models available in the US market alone. But recent EV sales have cooled to roughly a 6% market share. Hybrids are the immediate safety net.
And the psychological trigger for all of this is so human. Parrish points out that highly visible gas station signs physically shift showroom conversations in real time.
It's immediate.
Think about it. A buyer drives past a giant neon sign showing gas prices spiking by 40 cents. The very next day, they walk onto a dealership lot, and the first thing out of their mouth is a question about miles per gallon and hybrid lease deals.
That neon sign literally rewrites the dealer's afternoon, and that shifts an enormous burden onto the dealership sales team. They must be rigorously trained to explain the total cost of ownership to capture this specific foot traffic.
Yeah, the math is compelling if you can explain it right.
Carriage breaks it down perfectly. Fueling a standard 25 mpg vehicle might cost around $2,700 a year when gas prices spike. In contrast, charging an EV might only cost between $500 and $800 annually.
That's a massive difference.
It is. Dealers have to hedge their inventory toward hybrid trims to catch that immediate wave, but they also have to be ready to sit down and walk the customer through that long-term math.
But there is a huge catch for the manufacturers. The duration of these fuel price spikes is totally unpredictable. Carriage notes this is the biggest limitation in forecasting.
Because you can't plan around a 3-week spike.
Exactly. A brief gas spike just clears out some existing hybrid inventory on the lot, but it requires a sustained, painful price increase of 6 months or more to fundamentally change how manufacturers plan their long-term production strategies. They can't retool a factory just because gas was expensive in August.
Exactly. But let's follow our hypothetical buyer. They do the math, they navigate the tight 27-day sales window, they avoid the quiet drop-off, and they finally take their new, highly advanced vehicle home.
They park in the driveway.
They park in the driveway. And that is exactly where the hyper-advanced technology they just paid a premium for becomes a massive liability.
Which brings us to the Ford safety recalls. We are talking about critical failures on massive scales. According to their official recall notices, Ford is having to pull back over 2 million late-model SUVs spanning 6 different model years.
Over 2 million vehicles.
Yeah, the culprits. backup camera malfunctions, and wiper motor failures.
We're looking at three distinct recalls woven into this mess. First, there's an issue with the Accessory Protocol Interface Module, which the industry calls the APM.
Right.
This module actually overheats when the vehicle is shifted into reverse, which completely shuts down the backup camera feed. Separate from that, you have over 604,000 vehicles with misaligned wiper motor cover terminals.
And what does that actually do?
Well, over time, that misalignment degrades the electrical connection, causing the wipers to just completely die in the middle of a rainstorm.
Both of which are terrifying. Backup cameras have been legally mandatory in the US for a few years now, making this a major collision risk. But the detail in the Ford filing that absolutely blew my mind is the specific tech glitch causing the center display screen to malfunction.
Oh, this is the craziest part.
The filing describes it as, and I quote, a pulse on an integrated circuit data bus that rewrites a register in the display's microcontroller.
It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right.
To translate that into plain English, imagine a tiny, almost imperceptible static shock hitting the exact part of your car's computer brain that tells the monitor which way is up.
Okay.
One rogue electronic spark, and suddenly your entire dashboard screen flips upside down right as you're trying to back out of a parking spot. It scrambles the buttons, the parking guidelines, everything.
That is wild. And think about the strain this puts on the dealership. We were just talking about how these fragmented service departments can barely handle returning a text message without dropping the lead. Now imagine flooding those exact same service bays with millions of frustrated owners who are demanding immediate software updates because their screens are upside down and their wipers don't work.
It highlights the absolute vulnerability of turning our cars into rolling computers.
Yeah.
It's a logistical nightmare. And there is a glaring blind spot in the middle of this crisis.
What's that?
What the recall notices don't answer is exactly when the software fixes for the 1.7 million camera issues will actually be validated and ready for dealers to use.
Oh, wow.
Ford's still developing the remedy, so dealers are just bracing for an influx of angry customers that they can't even fully help yet.
So we've looked at the everyday buyer. They are calculating gas mileage down to the dollar, dodging upside-down cameras, and trying to get a dealer to just answer an email. But while all that everyday stress is happening, the ultra-wealthy are playing a completely different game entirely.
They really are. And this brings us to the luxury loophole. The California Department of Justice filed a sweeping felony complaint, launching a massive crackdown on luxury car buyers who use sham out-of-state LLCs to evade their taxes.
The infamous Montana plate tactic. Walk us through how this actually works, because the mechanics of it are fascinating.
It's essentially paperwork magic. Let's say you live in California and you want to buy a $3 million hypercar. Instead of registering it in California and paying the massive sales and use tax, you hire a firm to form a limited liability company for you in a state with no sales tax.
Like Montana?
Like Montana.
Yeah.
You register the vehicle under that Montana LLC, get your Montana license plates in the mail, but keep the car physically parked in your California garage.
And California has finally had enough. The DOJ sweep involves 14 people facing 56 felony counts. We're talking about $20 million in vehicle purchases and roughly $1.8 million in deliberately evaded taxes.
Massive numbers.
Yeah, and the vehicles involved are insane. Investigators seized McLaren Elvis, Ferrari SF90s, and Porsche 918 Spyders.
But the detail from the investigation that is truly unbelievable is how incredibly cheap these buyers were when orchestrating the fraud.
Oh yeah, the text messages.
Exactly. Investigators uncovered text messages discussing the creation of a fake bill of lading. A bill of lading is a shipping document meant to prove a car was physically transported out of state. This fake document cost a mere $200.
Wait, seriously, someone buying a Ferrari is using a $200 fake receipt?
Yes, and the text messages included literal instructions to the forgers to add generic signatures or just scribbles to make it look legitimate. A $200 scribble to dodge hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes.
That is the ultimate economic irony, but the legal risk they took on is astronomical. These buyers aren't just facing a bill for back taxes. They face potential prison time for conspiracy and perjury, plus a civil penalty equal to 50% of the tax owed on the vehicle's purchase price.
It's a heavy hammer.
Yeah, that is massive financial destruction.
It is. But there's a massive piece of this puzzle still missing. The investigation noted that nearly 500 dealerships are tied to more than 2,500 sales involving these out-of-state use claims.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. What the Department of Justice hasn't clarified yet is whether any of those 500 dealerships or businesses will eventually face criminal charges themselves. Are they going to stop at the individual buyers who bought the fake scribbles, or are they going to go after the showrooms that facilitated the sales?
That is a dark cloud hanging over the high-end exotic market.
Hmm.
Okay, when you look at the big picture of everything we've covered, it's wild how it all connects.
It really is. If we step back, three very clear themes weave through all these sources. First, we see the undeniable power of the immediate response.
Yeah, we saw it in the Carriage Report, where consumers react in real time to the psychological trigger of gas station signs, completely shifting their buying parameters overnight.
And we saw it in David Marad's analysis of the quiet drop-off, proving that if a dealer doesn't provide an immediate, helpful response, the modern buyer simply vanishes.
Second, the operational burden on dealerships is reaching a breaking point. They are being squeezed from every conceivable angle. AutoTrader shows them juggling lightning-fast 27-day sales windows to keep their cash flow alive.
But at the same time, Silent Partners shows their internal communications are fractured, and the Ford data shows they are about to be flooded with millions of highly complex software and hardware repairs.
And third, we are witnessing the double-edged sword of automotive technology. On one side, advanced hybrids and EVs are offering incredible total cost of ownership savings and reshaping consumer demand as Carriage mapped out.
But on the other side, the sheer complexity of that tech means a single invisible pulse on a microcontroller can cause your entire dashboard to flip upside down, forcing millions of cars back to the dealer.
And stuck in the middle of all of this are two massive contradictions. You have the clash between intense buyer demand and total operational failure. AutoTrader shows us a market with 80 million visits and cars selling in under a month, yet dealerships are actively ignoring that exact same demand through terrible lead follow-up.
And the other contradiction is purely economic. You have everyday buyers hyperanalyzing their budgets, sweating over a few $100s a year in gas versus electricity. Meanwhile, the luxury buyers people purchasing McLarens are orchestrating elaborate felony scribbles to dodge millions in taxes.
So what does this all mean for you? The practical takeaway here is that agility and transparency are the only ways to survive in this landscape. Whether you are a buyer who needs to jump on a fair price within a tight 27-day window, or you are a dealership principal who desperately needs to unify your software so your sales and service teams can actually talk to each other, standing still means you lose.
Knowledge is most valuable when it's applied. The market is moving far too fast for blind spots. You cannot afford to have blind spots in your software, your service bay, or your understanding of buyer psychology.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Auto News Talk. In a market moving at 27 days a sale, the biggest risk isn't the sticker price, it's the blind spots. Whether that's an inverted backup camera, a dropped lid, or a fake Montana license plate.
Keep an eye on those dealership service bays. If gas prices stay high and complex tech recalls continue to pile up, how those stores handle their existing customers will ultimately decide who wins and who loses.
And we will leave you with this final thought. If a $200 fake signature can bypass millions in taxes at the luxury level, it makes you wonder what other underground economies are thriving in the blind spots of the digital dealership age. Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll catch you next time.